Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to You've Been Weathered podcast. And as you know, I like to start with a little quote. And this quote comes from the great, Alexander the Great. And it says, "There's nothing impossible to they who try." And this applies to my next guest, our guest today, which is writer, director, filmmaker, journeyman, Tony Longhurst, or Agent Longhurst is his moniker. How you doing, Tone?
I'm all right, Eddie. I'm fine. Else been okay, but yeah, it's been okay.
And I bet you're still basking, and you're in the sunlight of your Albert and Lucas Award, Tone.
Yes, we did. Last year, it happened last year. So, of course, when the anniversary comes up, it sort of brings it all back to you. The evening, the whole fact that, the awards had taken nearly 2 years to sort of go into place because of COVID and the lockdowns. We didn't know what was going to happen because, we had to self-distribute because everything had shut down. And we went there not knowing. And when we received the award, it was such a shock to all of us. I don't think none of us had anything prepared to say because we didn't expect it. And then a year on, when everyone reminds it and it all comes back up on social media, it is quite it sort of brings it back. But you can bask in it, but you can only bask in it for so long because you need to move on and use that momentum to push forward.
Yeah, I'd like to take a little bit of time, Tone, just to sort of asked how it all come about, Lucas and Albert and Lucas. It's just it was one of them things that just come out of nowhere, really, because obviously I went to see your play Babysitters, which we'll touch on a little bit later on, sort of thing, and this was totally independent of that, wasn't it? But the continuity is with Babysitters.
Yes, it is. It's most definitely. The thing being about it was we wanted to do this play called Babysitters. Well, I wanted to make it as a film. And the problem with that was trying to get finance. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do it as a stage show because like you, I like doing stage. And then somebody said, no, you're best to stick with a film. So it was one of them toing and throwing things. Eventually, we couldn't get the finance to do the film, so we did the play. And it wasn't really a play, it was a tryout. We had a read through. And I thought, let's see how it goes. Yeah, and I thought, let's see how it goes on a read through. And then we thought, let's have a trial run just at a local theatre, and which was at the Brookside in Romford, but it wasn't a major run. From that, Bob Putt got involved, and we decided, yes, we'll have a rewrite, see what was right, see what was wrong. Got a bit of feedback from people. We decided to rewrite the play, and not rewrite it, but tighten it up, see where it needed improving. So we decided to then see if we could do an evening where we showed some scenes and we did a promo. And we thought a great promo we'd use these two characters that are in the play called Lucas and Albert, and we'd use them as the promo because it's what they are watching. And once we'd done the promo and we had the evening, I think you was there actually, somebody sort of said, oh, this would make a good film. But it had been mentioned, as they do, but it had been mentioned on a couple of occasions. So basically, we had a look at the script and thought, well, could we take these two characters out and still keep these, the essence of the play? So that's what we did. And
you wrote it, Tony. I
wrote it. Me and Bob put it together. But of course, with something like this, and as you know, with Eddie, when you're doing a film like this on an independent sort of thing, you let it evolve. Yeah. There were scenes that we put together that we literally, done on the day. We took the scene from, say, a car and went, oh, let's do this on a boat. So it evolved all the time, which was really important. That gave us the scope and the option to sort of diverse it in different directions, but still stay within the framework of what Babysitters was doing. And we decided to shoot it in black and white. The reasons being it was going to be easier and cheaper, and filming in Great Britain in the autumn, you can get 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah.
When we come to post, that would be really difficult. It's a difficulty, because you've got to get the right sunlight light, and we can get everything. Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but it's expensive. So we decided just to, have a look what it looked like in black and white. And because it's shot on the East Coast, and that's a very rural coast, it looked great. So we kept it in black and white. And once we come to release it, or start to get, it to release, we've done a couple of test screenings. We've done one the Head Gate in Colchester, which is a little theatre I know down there. We did another test screening in a proper cinema called Clacton, in a cinema in Clacton called the Century, before we actually then booked a big cinema like the Prince Charles in, just off of Leicester Square, to have a screening there. Obviously, at the time, we was also entering it into festivals. And
is this all through COVID, Tone? All this is all you're doing. All this through COVID.
This was all going on right up to COVID. We then gets the screening at the West End. Suddenly, we've got several sales agents phoning us up who attended. We've got a couple of distributors who attended. We're thinking, right, it's great. Everything's going swimmingly. We then get a nomination for the National Film Award. We're thinking, brilliant. That's coming up the following March. We think, right, we'll hold everything to the March. With the National Awards, we had 12 cinemas booked to show the film that I'd got myself. And then March 2020 happens, our world shut down. And it just went dead. I mean, everyone we were talking to was like, well, we're going to wait until see what happens with COVID. Everything. And as you know, the business, the industry was hit so hard. And basically, we didn't know what we was going to do because nobody had been through it before. Nobody knew what to do. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I think I was asking your opinion. Everyone, what do you reckon we should do? And Darren, the director, said, we can just get it out on Amazon Prime, direct to video. Now, that wasn't something I was good because, the returns on that are not brilliant, but at least it's airplay.
And you got to pay your investors back, obviously.
And yes, you got to pay your investors back, or at least show your investors you're trying to get the money back. And that's what we did. And it done quite well. It got about 2 million screening minutes and things like that. So we're thinking, good. The money was not great, but it was coming back. Yeah. But the trouble with that, you got to think, well, it's not going to be paid back any investors really, because it's, we need to make, considerably much more than that. I mean, it was only a certain percentage. And so we used that money then to basically just promote the film all the time, and that's what we did. And of course, in promoting it all the time, people were going to see it more and more. We didn't know when the awards were going to be. They said it was supposed to be in the March, then they said it was going to be in the July, then they said it was going to be towards Christmas. And in the end, we basically thought, we don't know when it's going to happen, because nobody knew. Nobody knew when we was coming out of lockdown. We sort of come out in August, and that's when they were said, it's going to be in the autumn, and then we shut down again. And then when they said, it may be in the following March, and it didn't happen. And then suddenly in the July of 2021, they said, we're going to have the awards. Do you want to come? It's not cheap, but we, we went. But we went there with no idea. We was up against some fantastic movies. 1917, and one of my favourites, Fighting with a Family, which was made locally up in Norfolk, which was a great little movie.
And this is independent awards time. This is an independent.
Well, this is the National Film Awards. I've never really heard of them until this happened. I've been going about 6 or 7 years now, and that was the thing. So we're all sitting in, but I couldn't understand why we wasn't nominated for an independent award. I couldn't understand why we wasn't nominated for a British award.
But we politics, Tom. Politics.
But then we was nominated for Best Feature Film, which meant we was in with 1917, Fighting with a Family, The Corrupted, Ken Loach's film, Sorry We Missed You, and a few others. So we thought, well, it's like being in the quarterfinals and you're only Colchester. I'm thinking, brilliant. We've done well, and let's enjoy the evening. So when they stood up on Shay, when you can see it on Facebook, I was announced we were the winners. I was totally gobsmacked. I think we all were. It was a mixture of cheering, shock, and everything. And of course, when I got on stage, I totally forgot myself and said, "I don't even believe this." And but I really didn't. I thought I'm standing here. 6 months ago. I'm thinking, where do I go?
Did you thank everyone, Tone? Did you thank your mum? Did you thank God and all that?
I thank your mum and dad who ain't with us. I thanked everybody in terms of I tried to thank them. And then when I got back, someone said, you didn't say thanks to them. And you didn't say thank you. I'm thinking, do you know what? I couldn't give a monkeys. I couldn't give a monkeys about them, but I'll thank them. I'll thank, they must know that I'm grateful. And what I did, I took the award around all the little places that we made the film and had the photographs done with all the owners and the business owners that sort of show goodwill. But of course, in doing that, it then suddenly threw a light on us. And at the moment, Lucas and Albert is with a company that wants to re-release it, but they want to do a colour grade on it, retitle it, and sort of re-release it worldwide.
And how do you feel about that, Tone? Them dipping into the sort of the ingrained sort of product of it.
It's mixed feelings, really. I can't see why they need to retitle the film. I can understand why they want to colorise it or give it a colour grade. I can understand that because, as I've been told, that there's not a lot of market for black and white films. But I'm sorry, they always say that, and then as they were telling me, Kenneth Branagh brings out Belfast.
I wonder if they said the same thing with Raging Bull as well.
Yeah, exactly. And there's lots of films where it goes. So black and white gives it a different feel. But I could understand them doing it, and you have to listen to them. And as much as you might not agree with them, it's their opinion. They ain't doing it. I've learned that as I've grown up, that just because somebody don't agree with me, it doesn't mean to say they're against me. Yeah. Just because I haven't got the same opinion as him, it doesn't mean to say that we have to be enemies. So you listen to it, and then you think about it, and you think, well, what else are we going to do with the film? Just leave it on Amazon Prime Direct for the rest of its life, and hope that we pull in £7.50 every month or £15 every month. What do I do? Or do we give it to somebody else and think, well, what we got to lose? And in our business, that's it. What have I got to lose? Where else would it go? So you might as well give it a go. If it doesn't work, you pick yourself up and you carry on going.
Right. Right.
That's the way.
Right. Now that's Albert and Lucas. Now, I mean, people know you, I suppose, like, apart from all our pals and everyone who we do know, they know you from your sort of Facebook sort of videos and your social network.
That'd be nice.
And all that. Now, what was it like, Tom, growing up? Sort of take us back to like the 11-year-old Tony who was at school, and was creativity in your head? Was it in your family? Was it in your environment? Did you know that you was going to head to where you're heading to now, Tom? Mum and dad supportive, were they? And pals?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Hackney, Eddie, so I was born in Hackney, and we was born in, just streets that had rooms, and that's what my mum and dad were brought up. I mean, my mum and dad only had one kid. I mean, they were married in 54, and I didn't arrive till I was 62. And it's because they really couldn't afford any children. And living in rooms, my mum didn't bring up a kid. We only had 2 rooms, and one was sort of shut off by a shutter. You know what I mean? The old-fashioned rooms. And these were big old posh walled-in houses that had been turned into tenement places that you shared with 3 or 4 other families. So when they eventually left and died, we was the only ones left in this house. And eventually they decided they had to knock the street down. So I become part of the GLC overload. But everybody in my street was in the same boat. So I didn't know the difference between being poor or rich. Everybody had hand-me-downs. Everyone had a shared bike. Everybody played out in the streets. We all did that. It was just, that was it. It was like all the old gardens that we used to play in. As they slowly knocked all the streets down, and my mum was determined not to move to the bottom of Chatsworth Road or over to Dagenham, we got a place in Hertfordshire on the Rosedale estate, which was a GLC overload, which was a big council estate. So it was just like they picked up a section of Hackney and the East End from down the Wick and just moved us from one place to 25 miles just outside London, just outside Enfield. And Went in London. My school was opposite. The other school was about 5 minutes round the corner. Their street was just down the road. And all of a sudden, I looked out the window and there was fields.
Yeah.
I mean, the estate eventually got bigger and bigger. And now it's just like this sprawling mass down there. I don't live there anymore. So people said to me, how did you get into acting? Well, I've traced it back. My dad used to sing in a pub with his brother. And my Uncle Frank would play the piano and the accordion, and my dad would sing, and he'd have this thing like with bottle tops on, and he'd bang it, and he'd sing all the old London songs and stuff like that. So getting up in front of people, as my dad did it, I didn't think there was nothing wrong with it. So I would do it. And then my mum had a massive love of films.
What was your song, Tom? What was the song
you
used to get up and do?
Tiddly Widdly Widdly.
Hey.
Winky Woo. And then there was a boiled beef and carrots, you know, all the ones, maybe because I'm a London. There I was working outside the Lunatic Asylum, Blake and stuff. And they'd sing all those type of songs, all the Chaz and Dave stuff.
Yeah.
So when Chaz and Dave come out, my dad loved them because he'd been doing it in a pub for years.
Yeah.
But then my mum had a massive love for films. So I knew about actors such as Richard Burton, you know, George Brent, Tyrone Power, before I actually knew about sporting heroes. And, you know, like Jimmy Greaves and Georgie Best. And it was just something I got in attuned with. And as I went through school, I couldn't read and write. I mean, I could not get the hang of it.
What's that? Dyslexia, Tom? Dyslexia was
it? I found out years later, it's a form of word blindness, which is a form of dyslexia. And what it is, the best of it is predictive text.
Yeah.
And anybody who ever reads my stuff will see my typos all over the place. And I have to go back. I'm convinced I've written the right thing. I will look at it and think, I've written it. And when I come back to it, I think, I've left 2 words out there, or I've put a completely different word in that I've meant to put in. So that gave me trouble reading. So what I would do I would go home and read stuff if I knew how to do it the following day and just try and learn it off by heart. So eventually, I remember a teacher said to me, do you know you read that without looking at the page? And I thought, that's because I learned it, yeah. But I would also use comedy and being a little bit cheeky, a little bit up front to give myself time. So I would crack jokes to make sure that I had a bit more time to sort of catch up and find out what everyone else was saying.
Yeah. Of
course, that caused a problem in school, which meant I was always sent out of the room. And coming from acne and all that, coming from working class backgrounds, you talk to stick up and say what you feel. And that was me, and that didn't go down well at the school I was at. So I had trouble. So I become a bit of a rebel. And I wasn't a naughty kid, not without anything. I wasn't a naughty kid at all.
You weren't a rebel without pause.
Nah, I wasn't. Anybody who was at school would have said I was.
Yeah.
Because I always got in trouble. I always got, the teachers couldn't, and I just could not get the hang of school. I just could not get the hang of it. And people said, was you bullied at school? I went, no. I said, the worst bullies at school I found was the teachers. And that's because I didn't want to do the stuff that they wouldn't do. I was interested in art and I was interested in acting. And I want to do that. And one teacher, Mrs. Norris, she spotted it. She sort of fought my cause all the way through school. They eventually won because, as the system always normally does, and I didn't get expelled, I got suspended, but because I was 15, it was easy to say don't come back and not go through the rigmarole. So that was it. And really that sort of then put me back up, because what I wanted to do, I wanted to go to college first of all, which meant I had no results, and then go to drama school. I could have got into East Arts College, but my mum and dad just earned over that threshold, which meant I would have had to pay, and my mum and dad couldn't afford it. So I sort of went around the shares and places like that, and I went to youth theatre. And
what sort of year did you go to Anna Shares?
Well, I went to Anna Shares.
Who was you there with, Tom?
I was there with Kathy Burke.
Right.
I was there with Kathy, Mark Burgess. Who else was there? Michael Fox, Terry Supak, bless his heart. Davy Doyle. I'm trying to think who else was there. It was with me and Jimmy were both there at the same time, and we loved it. Adam French was there as well. There was quite a few people.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. And I've done youth theatre, but of course, by the time I was 20, I was about 18. I was thinking, well, I got to go 18, 19. I got to go work.
Yeah.
And I was going to work. Of course, work was getting in the way of doing everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went to work and I thought I'd settle down. I'll tell you what I'd be. I've tried my best. I'll be normal. I'll be what everyone expects you to be. I'll do a carpentry exam. I'll do that. I'll work on a building site. I worked on the railways, which I liked. And it was great. But deep down inside of me, something else was burning away. And I could never, ever settle. And that's why I always talk about this business like a religion. When you talk to people who've got religion, they've got this passion about it, and sometimes you look at them and go, cool, blimey. Or people who've got a passion about anything. Well, then I understand that because, like yourself, you get this passion about this business. You don't choose it; it chooses you.
Yeah.
And no matter
you can't run away from it, can you? Really, you can't.
You never retire. What happens? It retires you. It just stops. And if you don't stop, it just fades. It's not. It comes to a natural end, and it's not. That will happen eventually. But you can't. But while you can do something, you just keep going at it. You just keep punching that wall, trying to break through.
So how did you make that move? Because I know you went to the Strasbourg, route,
Lee Strasberg Institute,
the thing. What in this country was it, Tony?
Yeah, well, it opened up in this country. I recently got divorced and split up, and I went to America and
what age was this time?
This was about 26. And I went to America and sort of found myself again walking around the States. When I come back, I read an article that they'd started a Lee Strasberg Institute in Holborn, which is Conway Hall, and it was Anna Strasberg herself who started the school. So I went down there, applied for it. They had an interview, got in. I think the fees were about £1,500 for the first term, or £2,500 because of the setting up fees, and we paid for that. And that was for the first term, and they would do a plan where you could pay monthly or weekly or things like that. So that was brilliant. And then after the first month, 3 months, first term, we would do a scene night, and I wanted to do this scene night so desperately because Anna Strasberg was coming over.
Yeah.
And every scene I was doing, the person let me down. I can't believe this. So I just learned a monologue from Alfie, and which was the last monologue. I didn't like going off and leaving her like that.
I bet you still remember it, don't you?
Oh, I remember it. I'm not going to do it because I think I've done it everywhere. But there's, the one.
What one was it? What one was it?
I don't like going off and leaving her like that, but all that din was getting me down.
Yeah.
The one where she has the abortion and all that lot. And and we did it. And then, I got some, good praise for it, and I thought nothing of it. And I got home, and about a week later, they phoned me up. I thought, here we go, we're going to ask for the funds. I thought I might have to sell the car here. But they called me in, and basically, Anna Strasberg gave me a scholarship. And I stayed there for the next 2 years, which was good. But what was brilliant, what I liked about it was the teachers that were there. They were all working actors, like Mariana Hill, who'd done things with Clint Eastwood, was in The Godfather, was done a Batman. She'd even sung with Elvis. And then you had people like Oliver Cotton, who was, I think, doing The Crucible at the time, and Don Fellows, who was the original Ensign Pullover on Broadway. It was such good fun, and Catherine Pogson. And so you learn from them, and they also told you wonderful stories that you sort of tucked away, and that was it. And the only thing I would say about drama school is that you can become a very big fish in a very small pond. And then you walk out them doors and think, here, look out, world, here I come, and realise you're a tadpole in the ocean. And it starts all over again, and that struggle's even harder. But if you haven't got the passion, I've met so many actors.
And it's accents as well, isn't it, son? Because what we've always been up against, especially in the eras that we started doing our little things, was like the RADA drama schools and the Webber Douglases and all these sort of things. There's always been this. I don't know what it is actually. It's almost like
a snobbery.
Well, I don't even know if it's a snobbery. It's almost like a threat, isn't it? It's almost like that we're sort of a threat because
Well, I found I went to a summer class. I thought years before that I went to a summer class at one of these, one of the drama school, and the guy just totally said to me, he said, you'll never be an actor with an accent like that. And I just thought, what about Michael Caine? Would you say that to him? Would you say that to, anyway?
I remember I went to a place called Morley College with me, Jeff Bell, there was a load of us, and I remember there was a voice teacher there, and she used to come in and she used to sort of give you these little sentences to say. Like one of them I always remember was 3 free thugs set 3 thugs free. And I used to go 3 free thugs set 3 thugs free. She was going, no, that's not how you say it. I was going, well, 3 free thugs set 3 thugs free. She was going, no, that's not how you say it. Your diction is that. I said, but that's how I say it. Like, I'm not going to be playing any sort of Downton Abbey fucking Lord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I found it was. I mean, as suddenly the Cockney accent got very in vogue, as they all say, and everyone started. I started noticing that people wasn't even being Cockneys; they were being what I would say representations of Cockneys.
Yeah.
It's like it's. And I knew people that spoke like that, but I could tell, just like when Americans do English accents, you spot them out a mile off because they say the things that they think that we say.
I mimic,
and it's even when I'm trying to do an accent, or I've done accents in things, that if somebody comes from the area they come from, they can spot me out a mile off.
Cool.
And then they say, what you're doing is you're actually you're rising on that. So that's all part of acting. That's all part of the tools. But what I didn't what I didn't like, it was the actual fact to not even consider that we were capable of doing more. That's what because of my accent, I was not capable of doing more. Because of my education, I was not capable of doing this. Oh, you should keep, and that gave me a massive working class chip, one that I've tried to knock off my shoulder plenty of times, but every now and again it raises its ugly head, and I know it's horrible, but it's the thing is they don't expect you to be able to do that.
But even Michael Caine says that in his book. He says, well, once he was earning absolute fortunes with the Ipcris files and all that, he was under contract to the James Bond people, Broccoli and all that, and he said. He said, I was always walking along the road, waiting for someone to tap me on the shoulder and say, this is a dream. And I wake up back in a little bungalow that I was living with my mum and dad, sort of thing. So I think you're right there. I think we don't believe that we deserve anything, really, down to the conditioning,
Well, yeah, I believe that. I mean, it's because you're always grow. I mean, because I grew up in an era where your mum and dad always went to work. They went to work, and policemen always told the truth. The government was doing their bit for the good of the country and all that. They were right, we were wrong. Believe in the Queen. Believe that we didn't question nothing. As we got older, especially as we grew up in the 70s and the 80s, we grew up in an age of questioning. But of course, like everything, it goes too far. You think it's still
like that now, though, Tone? Because boy, Barney, he's just he graduated again in the middle of COVID. Poor little sod. He didn't have a chance to get an end-of-term production. He didn't. But do you think this still applies our accents and all that now? I think it's finished now, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think that matters now. But in some ways, it's gone so far the other way that it's incredible. It's in some ways, if you actually are and I know it's going to sound horrible, but if you are a white middle class person like this, they'll go, oh no, that's who he's going to play. I grew up in an area where I knew black actors who struggled to get work. I know black actors who really worked hard to get work, and you think, what? Now I remember being in one of our classes, an actor called Trevor Etienne, who's gone over to the United States and done great stuff over there, like Idris Elba. But I remember him saying he couldn't get cast in plastic over here.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like, it was. I think now.
It's nice, isn't it, now?
It's nice. It works. It works now. But we've got to be careful not to go
too
so far.
Yeah.
So far that we discount all those people that we need.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to Bill Maher yesterday. We're actors, for God's sake. We've been this because we like playing parts, creating roles and acting. You know, I want to, you know, you love your Shakespeare. I want to play Petruchio because I want to play Petruchio because the roles are good, or I want to play Bottom because it's a funny role, not because and he's a weaver or something like that. Or you want to play the role of Bill Sykes because of you've seen it done before and you want to do it, or Alfie, you want to play, you know, it's, you know, you want to play a killer because it's a great part, you know, or you want to play some humble little bloke who's, you know, the role's the thing. So you create a role. But now it's like, you know, you're getting said, oh, there's a great play called Boys in the Band, and I've always wanted to do it with a load of blokes, but just not mention what their sexuality is in it at all, and not even, and just cast it with the best people, but have a mixture of, you know, gays and lesbians, but tell nobody what they are. Let the audience decide what they think. But now they're saying to us, oh no, you've got to cast an all-gay cast. Yeah, but that means, you know, I've never flew a plane. Does that mean I can never play a pilot? You know, I was never fought in a war. Does that mean I can never play a soldier in World War II? And I want,
it's getting a bit too
yes, it's getting a little bit. And I think the people in the business know that. And I think the people in the business realise that. But of course, then there's other people out there who've got totally other agendas, want to push that.
Well, I think art's gone out of the whole thing now, Tom, because it seems to me that it's all about Marvel and all about DC and all about the sci-fi stuff and just, I mean, good. I mean, you mentioned Ken Loach, you know, and I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work with him, Ken Loach, you know, and I was just totally in awe of his film process, you know what I mean? This guy, we was out in Poland for a couple of weeks shooting this movie called It's a Free World, and he was shooting on film, just film, but you know, not just pure film. And the guy was shooting without a monitor. I mean, there ain't a lot of people that will understand that. What I'm saying,
I mean, that is a big risk without a monitor. And then he's not seeing what you're seeing.
And his coverage was just quite phenomenal with film, because before he punched into before he got into his close-up, he probably had 5 or 6 coverage shots, like starting at the back, coming to there, all on film, you know, no monitors, no nothing. You had the same team that was working around. I mean, it was just an absolute, I was astounded really at his process, you know, and he knew exactly where it was going. He knew exactly.
But I think Ken Loach means a lot to a lot of us, because one of the first films you would always be shown at school was Kes. Kes, and I remember being shown that, and it was the first time, like you said, we saw working class people on the screen.
Well,
actually,
Silly Cow and Up the Junction, and Kathy Come Home, you know. I remember actually seeing Kathy Come Home, and it was. I remember being a kid. I mean, I think I saw a rerun of it. It was still like in the days of black and white telly when I saw it. I was living down the Blue in Trapp's house in Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, even at a young age like that, I just thought, this is mad. This is absolutely bonkers.
I remember I watched the film.
And the only one that I can compare with that, sorry to jump in, of recent, I think the 80s or the 90s, was Nil by Mouth.
Yeah, I was just about to say that was Nil by Mouth.
That was that art again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That art. It was like sitting in your living room, watching your mum and dad sort of.
And I think that's because Gary come from that background, that understood it, and it was about his family, and it was and it was, I remember watching a film called, I think it was called Seven. It's very rarely shown, but June Brown is in it. And it was shortly after Oliver. So there was Jack Wilde was in it. I think it was about 21, where June Brown's her mum and she dies.
He was my I was mad on him, you know, Jack Wilde, when I was mad on him, HR Puff and stuff and all that. I was mad on him, mate.
Because he was
the
one of
first,
us.
sorry, Tone, it was the first single I ever bought, right?
Yeah.
About 68. It was a Joe Brown cover, Picture of You. Jack Wilde done it.
Oh yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I listened to his album.
50p it cost me in a record shop. I couldn't believe it, mate. I loved it. I played it.
Jack Wilde was, as soon as he was in Oliver, I mean, it was similar. It was Oliver, it was Mark Lester, but we all us little kids we all wanted to be Jack Wilde.
Yes.
We all wanted to be Jack Wilde. And in Silver the Loving Kiss, or whatever they called it over here, and in, I remember him being 7, he was just this terrific little, and then, you know, sorry enough, he ended up getting ill and he had problems of his own. And it was just like, you had it all. But, and then days he didn't, but he was like my hero, my Jack Wilde, what? Yeah. And every time Oliver comes on, you just think, God, what a performance. He got nominated for an Oscar. Yeah. It was brilliant, you know, and I, you know, Carol Reed, I like Carol Reed's directing as well. I love that sort of things. And another director I like is Lewis Gilbert, because he's British. He does what we do best. He done a Bond film as well, didn't he? Yeah, which is not one of his. I think it was You Only Live Twice. I don't think he's one of his favourites, but they all do it. You know, you always think, well, if they're offering the money, you'd all go, well, I'll do that.
Didn't he do the Ipcris Files? Because I know he done Alfie.
Yeah. I think he actually, he might have done, but he done a load of films. But I remember he come back and he also done like Educating Rita as well, things like that. And
Michael Caine,
it was. But Jack Wilde, when he come out, I wanted to be Jack Wilde. Yeah, you know. Yeah, I think we all
dancing down the street, mate. Just dancing down the street, mate. HR Puff and stuff. But no, it was good. So, go on.
No, so that's it.
I just want to move it on a little bit, really, because we're like, I'm sure there's so many people that are sort of relate to what we're saying as well. But it's about, again, I mean, I've seen some of your videos on Facebook, and a recent one that really sort of touched me a little bit was this scamming one where someone's accused you of doing this, which will come on to Babysitters and the funding and all that. But I mean, where is this trolling, or is it, or do they mean it? I mean, I just don't understand it. Have you got to the end? Have you got to the?
Well, I've done what a lot of people, including you, said, done, is you have to ignore it. I mean, the trouble is, we come from where we come. The first thing is somebody attacks you, you're going to attack right back. You're going to attack. Now, if somebody throws a right hander at you, you're going to duck and throw a bigger right hander back. Anyone says, I'm going to, you know, as my dad would say, give you one, you know, if I give you one tip in life is getting first, but getting hard. And he would always say that. He said, you know, somebody, but that's how they were brought up. That's how my dad was brought up. Yeah. You know, fisticuffs at the end of the corner and all this. Life's changed now. Yeah. I don't know my mum.
It's a bigger man. It's a bigger man that sort of shoves it away, really. You know what I mean?
But as soon as you get attacked, you do it. So first of all, I just wanted to say to everybody, this is not a scam. Yeah. And then a lot of people, like my friends and all that, said to me, look, just ignore it. It'll go away. If you don't bite with it, they've got nothing to fight on. Yeah. And funny enough, there was a few of my other friends that actually done the arguing for me and sort of come in and went, you know, you're out of order. And I do think some of it, I don't think some of these people that make these comments are the ones that actually start the trolling. There's somebody else that starts the trolling and gets other people involved. And they're the ones, oh, this is terrible. I mean, I've noticed that on all these social medias, when you write something, I've written stuff and right at the bottom said, this is a load of rubbish. I'm only joking. And people have come on and commented. And I said, didn't you read the whole thing? Yes, I did. I said, what did I say on the bottom? And they've gone back and said, oh, that's a stupid joke. I thought, no, it's to find out if you will read it all. And then I know whether to be their friends. But a couple of my mates on here and a couple of friends got on the site and said, this is not wrong. I just took them. In the end, I've done what I've done. I took them off. I don't know them. I've never met them. I've never seen them. Facebook asked me to put it on, their site, which I boosted. The crowdfunding was on a genuine crowdfunder site. I thought, just check me out. You've only got to say, he's not going to make the film. I had this with Lucas and Albert. Somebody, we're all allowed to like what we want to like. Some people like the Beatles, some people like Elvis. Some people think some movies are great. Other people go, no, I don't like. But it's only our opinion. And I remember somebody put on Amazon once, oh, this film must be a tax scam because it's the biggest load of crap I've ever seen. Well, it wasn't the biggest load of crap I've ever seen that upset me. It was the fact that somebody said that I'd done a tax scam. Well, we got that taken down. And people said, oh, well, I said, no, it's not that. I said, but that can affect me on the long run.
It ain't as if you're sort of ironing out £2 million as a budget or anything. It's like the Ajax is going to come to about 40 quid on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing is what they said, that, this is scam, he's just trying to get money. I'm thinking, have a look on the site, decide, and then have a look what's actually been donated. It's not really, it's the amount of effort I'm putting into it, it's not really paying back. And you can see what I'm doing. But as several others said, just ignore it. And
let's get to this. Let's get to this a little bit later, really, because I'm interested, really, of people getting to know you, really, Tony, and like the hard graft you've put in to get to where you are now. So, sort of while you're doing the Strasbourg thing, you're obviously writing little bits of theatre and you're getting involved in little bits of theatre producing. You and Michael McKell sort of link up and you start doing these little boxing stuff that you write. Yeah. You wrote it, you started writing theatre and bits and pieces.
Exactly. As I said, once I realised I'd come out of drama school and I was going to the same auditions and seeing the same faces and just trying to get an agent, I thought, and I went to a few fringe shows at the time, which would have been a pub theatre network started, with a theatre on top of pubs. And I thought, well, I'll get a play here. And I found a little theatre in Bands Green called the Springfield Park Taverns. It's not a theatre anymore. And I'd done a play there. It was okay, complete disaster, but we got a good review. I fell out with one of the actors. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But I picked myself up, and we then did it at another theatre just off of Houston.
Is this something you wrote?
Something I wrote called that. And people said, why did you write that? Well, I love boxing. And I wanted to write about James Braddock because I thought his story was amazing. But when I looked at it, I thought people say, oh, it's just Rocky, even though it was true. But when I looked into his story more, I thought it was so interesting about how the fight with Joe Louis came up, which was the alternative for Braddock fighting was fighting Schmeling. And at the time, what with Germany and all that, it was crime.
Schmeling, he hurt him, Joe Louis. He hurt Schmeling, didn't he?
Well, because Schmeling knocked him out. And then when they fought as a champion, Joe Louis went after him. But again, that's propaganda. He never said anything of the things that he said about it. It was all propaganda.
Black and white again,
and it was called 10%. And it was all about the deal that had to be made so that Louis would only be the second black man to win a world title after Jack Johnson. And there hadn't been a black heavyweight champion for over 20 years. And the 10% deal was as long as Lewis was champion for the first time, for that time, every world title fight, Braddock would get 10%.
Gotcha.
In the end, it's turned out that he come out of his manager's fee. And that's how the fight. Braddock was just the same as him. He was down on his uppers and everything else. And it was about how these two men were both heroes. And I wanted to create that instead of making two anti-heroes or two villains, I made two heroes and let the audience chart what colours they painted to. And it looked, and with my experience in boxing, I wanted to express how it felt leading up to a fight, what it felt like during a fight, and what it felt like when you was winning, what it felt like it was losing. I then went on to make a film with that called 10%.
What year was this, Tom? What are you talking
This was about 1990.
1990. Now, this is how long you've been writing. You know, people think you've just come on with Albert and Lucas and the other
Lucas
stuff
and Albert, yeah.
So, right, you know, people are getting to know now. You know, you've written this in there, and then you've written another one, and you've written another one, and all this time you're sort of working as a cleaner. You're grafting your nuts off. You're self-funding, and you know.
Me and Mike McHale was saying that when I adapted Macbeth, you know, to do it the lyric. We did it at the Hen and Chickens, and we transferred to the lyric studio at Hammersmith, and we adapted that. And when we was working, I was selling sandwiches and washing floors in the morning. Mike McHale was pulling stalls out down Walthamstow Market, and then going back. And we were both going back working after we'd done a show because we weren't getting paid.
No.
And I give a lot of people a lot of opportunities. I wanted to give everyone opportunities, and the theatre that we created down there, I created down there is at Springfield, went on for 3 or 4 years until the pub changed hands, and then it decided to be a gastropub. But it was a grounding, and I ended up doing the Hen and Chickens, the Red Lion, as the lyric. I would look at new writers. I got a great play called His Brother's Keeper from America. Somebody introduced me to, and we did that. But I also done plays there as well that I wasn't in, like I'd done Killing the Sister George,
great film,
which I hardly had a part in. Well, I didn't have a part in at all because it's for female roles. I didn't always take the lead, and then I obviously done a couple of plays. One at the Union, but we did Dick Turpin at the Red Lion, which was written by Barry Purchase, and then at the Union, we done Barry's play, No Place Left for Heroes.
So you've treaded you've done the collar, haven't you? You've done the collar, and really and truly, Tone. I mean, as you said earlier on in this conversation, without the passion, you would have turned it in fucking years ago, wouldn't you?
I know 4 or 5 actors. There's 4 or 5 actors that I'm not going to name. Who I saw one of them in a play called Enemy, and it's a fantastic play, and it was directed by the late John Fulgham when I done some work at the Fox, and it's about set in the desert during the Second World War. And it was a fantastic play, and it was brilliant, and the young actor in that was fantastic, and he went on to do a few bits, and then he packed up. And I said, why? He said, I just couldn't afford to be an actor anymore. And I thought, only in our profession, we're the only profession in the world where you can be great and you don't get a crack at the title. Even in boxing, you'll get your chance somewhere down the line. But
I think you will, mate. I mean, like with what you're doing now,
it's learning from you, right? We've been planning to do something, and for some reason, you're always going to help me out, and then you got a part in Shakespeare, but you're very like me when we do this because we love it.
Yeah.
And you taught me to fall in love with what we do, because in the end, if I'm in love with it, I don't really care. Obviously, somebody said, well, you wouldn't care about the fame and fortune. I said, yeah, of course I would. I'm not an idiot. But if I suddenly got a great big wad of money, I wouldn't be buying a big flash car.
Throw it in the movies, mate.
I'd throw it in the movie. Or I'd go and do a little fringe show somewhere.
Yeah.
For the crack. Not knowing that I've got to worry about if I've got an audience. You know, I think, you know what, I'm paying the actors and we'll have a great time. I'm going to do Edinburgh again. You know what I mean? Just to go,
Well, talking about Edinburgh, I mean, I've done that in 1994. Me, Aaron Bell, but anyway, it's another story. But
what play was that? What play was that?
It was a play about the Cray twins.
That's right, because I met somebody else was in that. Yeah.
But one of my favourite films, which I don't think has got enough credit in it, and you was involved in it a lot as well, was Charlie.
Yeah.
I know so many people pan that movie, but I might have seen it sort of 6 or 7 times, you know. I think that's one of the best portrayals of Charlie Richardson. And
it's funny,
I've ever seen, you know.
Do you know what? It was good fun because we made it in South Africa. We shot a few bits over.
Did he come over here? Was he over there?
Yeah. We shot some things in London, and what got me, they were shot in the East End. South London gangsters.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we went to South
Well, I
Africa.
don't think they were gangsters. That's the thing about it, right? Okay,
Well, yeah.
they were violent people, but they were businessmen, weren't they? They weren't
Charlie was a massive businessman. Charlie was a massive.
You can't put him in the same sort of category as the Cray twins or any of them other sort of.
They were very, very clever businessmen.
They were cute,
just unfortunately, they got involved in other stuff. Eddie.
I mean, they weren't running in banks with guns, and they weren't.
No.
You know, they were, everything he was doing in South Africa was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he was also one of the. Charlie admits it. He said I was also one of the best advocates of long firm for years.
Well, long firm, yeah, but again, that's business, isn't it? It's
but
not.
But as he turned around and said, he said, "Now that's just called bankruptcy."
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting. He said, "Long firm fraud." He said, you get done. He said they were trying to do me for that tone. They trying to do me this. He said years later, it's just called bankruptcy now. Yeah. He went, I thought, you know, we talk like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's told me some great stories. And then you got Eddie, who said, I never wanted it. I was happy doing. I couldn't believe it. I was happy doing me scrap metal. We're doing all that. My brother wanting to be a diamond millionaire cost us a fortune.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were funny. We enjoyed doing that film. I did think that.
But Eddie, there's something about Eddie, isn't there? I sort of met him a little while ago with regards to writing a script about his book, sort of thing. He's got something about him, Eddie, isn't he?
Yeah. Do you know what he is? Because he is what he is. And that's the thing. Like he does not bullshit. He does not. Whatever he tells you, it's true. He don't embellish anything. If you say, I mean, I've sat there and talked the stories with him before and said, "Well, nah, it was nothing like that. It was actually this happened, that." And he said, "Just a bit of a." He said, "The newspaper blew it out of the water, you know." And then you hear the other side from other people who go, "Whoa," and then you think, "Well, make your own decision," you know. You know, I've met. It's funny now, and I've written a bit about that in something else I've been reading. How many people criticise the Craze for one reason or another? And literally not as respectful as they used to be in the 80s. Oh, Ronnie and Reggie, because stories and life evolves. You know, you think you put people on pedestals, and we ain't on pedestals. We've all got foibles. We've all got skeletons in our closet. We've all got done things that we're not proud of.
Yeah,
and that's what we do in this country. We do put people up on pedestals, and then we love knocking them down. I mean, I watched that Gascoigne in documentary, and it was as if we've had your fun, son. We're gonna go after you now.
Yeah.
And he was a very vulnerable man who a lot of it brought it on himself.
But then you got. I've just finished that Calzaghe on. What a beautiful documentary, mate. Have you seen it?
What one? The Calzaghe.
Yeah, him and his dad. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, mate. It just shows you where you can get to with love.
And that is his father's passion and dream that drove his son on. It was his dad that was always the lover of boxing, and he's his son, and that drove his son on. So much so that the son knew when to get out. Yeah, the dad didn't. Brilliant. The dad carried on training. Carried on training. Exactly. His pinnacle would always be with his son. I mean, and there's a bit in it at the end where he's talking where. Joe, he said, "I can't do it no more," and his dad said, "Of course you can do it." And Joe went to his dad, "I'm not hungry anymore," and that's when his dad said, "That's it. The end. That's the end, mate." And if you don't love it, and it's about our business, but we don't get punched in the head. No, not unless we're being punched in the arm. Oh, you get punched in the arm. But it's how big our art is that takes the padding, and I think to be an actor, you have a resilience. You have to. If you haven't got a resilience, you won't survive in this business. Yeah. If you haven't got because you will get a critique one day that says, and I can remember Kate Bassett from the Times, Tony Longhurst is the worst actor I've ever seen and should never be allowed to do Shakespeare. My favourite one is I've done a film called The Firm, and one review was he said he's like Simon Pegg in a fat suit.
I thought you can't come up with anything other than that. Simon Pegg in a fat
do you know
suit.
what got me? And this is, you know, I don't rant normally, but I mean, people know me now. I will. I don't apparently. But I remember they said about our Scottish version. Oh, how dare these Cockney upstarts think they can do Shakespeare, which was one, and the other one was, this actor has the worst Italian accent I have ever heard. Now, the actor's name was Roberto Nero, who come from Vipitino in Spain. Yeah. And there's this critic. I thought, did you not read his name?
Yeah.
I mean, and you really spoke like this.
Well, I think you got to feel the things with critics. I think you got to feel sorry for them, you know, because they're so close to it, but they can never do it.
Well, yeah.
You understand what I mean? They're so close to it.
I used to feel like that. I used to feel like that. I used to feel that they were trying to give it as in, but I think television stopped that. I think suddenly, you know, with the things like the X Factor and, you know, these programs that do these things, that you always get one nasty judge. You get one nasty judge that's really cruel and says that, oh, you're hopeless and you're terrible and you're absolutely. I think he started with Nina Mishkov. Remember when they brought back New Phase?
Horrible.
Yeah, but that horrible got you noticed. So I think sometimes some of these critics will then just be horrible, just to be controversial, and you think, do you really mean that? No, do you honestly mean that? And then, and probably when you, do you remember what they did a few years ago? Remember when they got all the critics to direct a fringe play, and it was Michael Billington and all that, and Nicholas Dion. That's all going back them years ago, and all of them in the end, some of them walked away, and all of them complained about the critique. And I thought, oh, they're only saying that just to get back at us. And I thought, you threw yourself in there. What did you expect them to do? Yeah, you know, all be nice to you. Yeah, and you know. And you know, and I know, the same with awards, the same with things go on. And it's a cutthroat business. And you've got to just, it goes on. And I don't moan about it no more. If I go for a part and I think I've really got it, and then somebody else gets it, okay, maybe next time. It does gut you a little bit, though, when you see it. You mean, I've got a couple of actors. Every time I walk into a room and I see them there, I think, I'm not getting this. Oh yeah, I used to get that with several people. I mean, my drama teacher used to say, "There's 5 stages." Who's Tony Longhurst? You know, I'd be good for this part, Tony Longhurst. Get me Tony Longhurst. Get me a Tony Longhurst type. Who's Tony Longhurst? that was Don. And I thought, yeah, you're only as good as your last part. Yeah. It's like fighting. You're only as good as your last part. You can win an Oscar when the next film gets a complete turkey. But no one sets out to make a bad movie. Yeah. No one sets out to make a bad performance. Yeah. No one sets out to do it wrong. You do the best. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it don't. We're coming up to the last part of this now. So what I want you to do now, Tone, really, is put out all the details for. I mean, I'll put it all on the descriptions and everything. Babysitters. Give us a brief sort of whatever needs to be said about Babysitters. Whatever the crowdfunding, the idea behind the crowdfunding, the reason. We know you've already spoken about what an hard grafter you are, how you've come up and worked hard all your life to put together art. Yeah. You know, you ain't a rich man. You live normally. You're an humble person. Now you've got an award-winning movie, Albert and Lucas. They're your first little throw into the pond. Now you're going again, but you're skint. You've got no money. You need to get it invested. So give us a little brief thing about whatever you want to say about that, mate. Right. Babysitters is what Lucas and Albert were looking at. It's not a prequel. It's not a prequel. It's not a sequel. It's an equal. This is the story from a different, on the same timeline, told from a different perspective. This ties up all the ends.
Two sort of aging.
Yeah, but it's not about Lucas and Albert. They were looking.
Thieves,
what Lucas and Albert is a story of a robbery that went wrong years and years ago, and one of the guys takes a hit for it and goes down. Years later, he wants to come out, but the robbery wasn't how it said it was done. He wasn't probably the guilty because a policeman got knocked over and he went down for it. It was his turn. 20 years later, he's got to be broken out. There's a few factors that are going on, and the man in charge now breaks him out.
It's Babysitters.
This is breaks him out, and it's really where all the secrets and what happened in the past come to. This is what Lucas and Albert were observing, right? They will make an appearance, but it's the same timeline, and it's the story of relationships. It's how people 20 years ago who probably thought the same way 20 years later don't think the same way. People who were in that world years ago who are not part of this world now. It's about family. It's about how they take this bloke from prison and put him in another prison in a hideaway and expect him to be normal, when really and truthfully he was probably in the best place he should have been.
And it's a really colourful cast as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a colourful cast. And yeah, there's still parts of it. We haven't cast everybody. I mean, obviously we've got the cast that was from Lucas and Albert coming back, but there's far more roles in there. And I'm talking to an actor now to play a cameo role of this policeman. And, he needs to be able to change because you've got to be older. And we need somebody with real gravitas to sort of make you go, oh, really? Because what he says is very poignant. Now, this is all part of a massive story that I've been writing for years called A Man on a Mountain, which takes place about working class people from the end of the Second World War. And it was something that Frankie Fraser was saying to me, that, during the war, he said, being a villain and being a thief was okay because everybody needs it. The war ended, he said, and it sort of really killed my industry. And it was how crime has changed through the years. And how some people are dragged into it, and how some people thrive on it, and how some people, and how it affects other people. I mean, people always talk about. I mean, we have got all the love affair in London with the Crays and the Richardsons and that, but somewhere along the line, what they did affected innocent people.
Yeah.
And I always look there for the grace of God. Go I could have quite easily gone there. The trouble is, some of us have got consciences, and one of my mates who's like that. He admits, he said, I didn't care. He said, I didn't care if what I did. You know what I mean? He said, for me, it was survival of the fittest, and I was going to be the fittest. He looks at things differently now as he gets older. But this is what the play was about, and it's about the isolation, that you can take somebody out of prison, put them in another place, and they're never ever going to be free, no matter where they put them. And that person who has a sister, a mum, a dad, it affects them just as much about what he's done. And then he comes clashing back with the people of his old days. Where does it go from there? And it's a British style gangster film. And when I say of the old style, I'm talking about Sweeney, the Longwood Friday, and that. Today's modern gangster films, and I think, I'm not knocking them, I'm not having a go at them, but they're a little bit more, machine guns and things like that. And I'm like, really? But it happens. And in The Man on the Mountain, you can see how it goes from, fisticuffs and knives and razors on the street to blowing people's houses up. I thought when you did that thing, The Business, there was a massive transition thing in that about people. They were not stereotypical looking gangsters, but they were the gangsters that were about at the time. And not all gangsters wear suits and look like Ronnie and Reggie. Some of them walk about. I mean, did you ever see the film called The General with Brendan Gleeson?
Yes,
about Mark McKay. He walks about in an anorak and done that with his face.
Yeah.
And it's like, things change, policing changes.
Yeah.
There's a line in the thing that I done that Eddie said, but I'm not going to say it, but there's about who the biggest gang in London is. And it's like, really? And you and I know that looking at if the government nowadays was looked upon, they would be looked as extortionate.
Yeah.
I mean, what they're doing to the public is terrible.
Gangsters, mate.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So what we're trying to do with this, is we're going to fund it. We've got some investors, but obviously I need to get the film going. Now, I got offered to make a short film for somebody. Now, there's a new writer called Julian White. I don't know how hard it is yet. And I said, that's good. So I've got a couple of me friends to do that. But I said to him, can I link it just with the characters, not change the dialogue, to my film and make that a standalone film on its own? Then I thought to myself, you know, if I'm going to be filming for 2 or 3 days, it's going to cost just as much. I might as well see if I can raise the money to do a week's full. And then we could then put together a decent trailer and also keep the footage. See, the mistake we made when we done the promo for Lucas and Albert is we shot it on something different because we didn't know we was going to make a standalone film with that. But this time we've then got at least 25% of the scenes in the can, which means that when we come to shoot it early next year, we'll be in front.
Yeah.
That means, and also we can use all this. Plus with Lucas and Albert being re-released, we've got something to say to people, look, this is real. This is absolutely real. This is happening. It's not, we might do it, we can't do it. It's, look what we've done. Look, we've put it together. We've already shot something. If you invest in this, you're actually getting, it's going to come out, because that's a lot of people happens these days. They invest in films and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And it goes 2 years down the line and they haven't even shot the first scene. I'm not saying everyone does that. And I'm not saying they're doing that on purpose, but circumstances change. Like,
so how can people get to you? How can they give you money?
Well, I'm on Greenlight at the moment, Greenlit. That's Greenlit, L-I-T. And we've got Babysitters November shoot site up there.
And where's that? On Facebook, Tom?
On Facebook, it's on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's also on YouTube. There's plenty of links on there. All we got to do is tap the link and the page comes up.
Well, I'll put all these links into the description of this thingy bob on YouTube anyway.
Yeah, and it goes, and these links, and just touch these links. I'll put it on every single one of my videos. I'm concentrating a little bit on Twitter. Somebody give me some good... what's your Twitter
address? Where people can get it now.
Longhurst and Putt. Longhurst and Putt.
At Longhurst and Putt. And what's your Instagram?
I think that's Tony at Instagram. Tony Longhurst at Instagram. I'll get these
Longhurst at Instagram.
But I'll put a page up. I'll stick a page up on all of them that you've got all these addresses anyway.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get mixed up when it goes to Longhurst with a racing driver in America.
Gotcha.
Which is quite funny. So I've put a lot of it in Longhurst and Putt Productions.
And what sort of, I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but I'm thinking about what's your aim? What is your, obviously you've got a target on.
Yeah, if we can raise about 10 grand, we can do a week shooting. But they're very simple scenes. If we can raise 20 grand, we can do a lot more scenes. The trouble is, we won't be able to shoot the movie on that, because there are some scenes that will take.
So you want 100 grand or something, 150 grand?
A shooting budget would be ideal at about £100,000.
Yeah,
that would be a shooting budget. These would be a lot of the incidental scenes that can be done, like it's only 2 of you in it. But of course, with them, there's a robbery scene that needs to be done. Now that's, as you know, that's going to cost money. What with insurances, what with shutting off streets, what with the costumes, what's with having police presence there as well. Because, you know, if you're bound to do that, you start doing a robbery, someone will phone up and goes, there's a robbery taking place down that street. Yes, it's a film. Plus there's a massive hotel scene that we're doing. And plus then there's all the scenes that we need to do, which is in the hideaway. But there's a lot of scenes leading up to it that are the incidental scenes which we can use. So that's what we're aiming to do. Now, if we get them in the can and get that, and if we've 20 grand, we could maybe shoot up to 50% of the scenes, which would be about a third of the movie, 2/3 of the movie. Even that. So
50%. slowly catch the monkey on this one, Tom.
Well, we wanted to start filming the end of this year, but because of the crisis and because of everything else, I decided to say, look, let's just put it back till next year. Let's get Christmas out of the way. Let's see what happens. Then I get offered this short movie, and then I'm thinking, do you know what? He's finished then. I'm going to be setting up just to set up for a 2-day shoot. It's going to cost you £2.5 grand. And you think, do you know what? For another £7 grand, I could shoot a load more stuff. But
So
they
if
have to
anyone's out there who's sitting there with a little 20 grand
Yeah,
that
and it was,
that wants to help new filmmakers and people that have
well,
spent
if they've
their
got 20,
lives.
if they've got the amount of 20 grand, I'll be straight away. I mean, first of all, I let everyone know there's no guarantee with a film business, and you know that. And I say that to you, you do it because you love it. And if you've got 20 grand, the best things to do is to sort of contact me direct.
But you never know either,
because
though,
you
really,
get tax breaks on that.
Because I mean, you say that, but I mean, if you take, for example, this Blair Witch Project, which they shot on 2 camcorders,
Yeah, amazing.
And that made sort of $550 million.
Amazing.
So you can't really, I mean, you have to tell people that nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
But you can still tell people that there's stardust that can drip down at any given time, you know?
What I like to say is that old saying, we do exactly what we said in the tin. Every movie I've ever done, I've done what I said. It's other people that make the assumption. I always say I'm going to make a movie and I'm going to be showing it. And you notice it. You never do that. You never do that. So you make the movie and they go, oh, you never finish it. So you finish it. And they say, oh, it's never going to be seen, is it? So it gets seen. And I've had this said, so it gets seen. Oh, well, where's it going to be seen? Well, it's up the West End. Oh, it's never going to win anything, is it? And then you win an award. You know what somebody said? It's not exactly an Oscar, is it?
Well, I mean,
yeah. And I thought, well, you just can't please some people.
But yeah, it's not about pleasing them, really, because them comments in itself must be pleasing, because you've obviously got someone's goat.
Exactly.
Accept that one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once they start talking like that, you know you've got somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and I take everything on the chin now, and that's hard, but it's hard to take it on the chin, but you have to. What I always say is, what I'm going to do, I say I'll do. As you know that, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If it can't happen, I will say, listen, this has happened. You know, my excuse, people always said to me, and I'm a realist, when they said, oh, what would the film done if you hadn't have had COVID? How great would that have been? I said, well, you got to look at another way. If COVID didn't happen, then maybe not everybody would have been watching streamlining films, which means not everyone might have watched my film. I said, they might have all been going out and taking their families out and not. I said, so you've got to take the rough with the smooth. All I know is I can make this happen, and I will always make it happen. Everything I've always said, I've done. And if I can't, I'll straight out and say, look, we've got a problem here. We've got to do this. But as like you've said before, there's no problems. It's just a solution.
Yes.
Yes. You just don't. If you just go, oh, do you know what? I wish I would be an actor. Well, go and be one. Yeah. Oh, I don't know what to do. Well, I'll give you all the steps to do it. Go and be one. Oh.
So what you're saying is your mentality and your philosophy is on this one. I want to make a film, and I'm gonna make it.
Exactly. Exactly. And you start off with this, and you think you must have plans. You must have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, because you don't know what's going to happen. And you only get that by experience, which is what I've got now. You know, other people will say, oh, you should do this, you say that. Other filmmakers, and then I listen to what they say. I always, like you and a few others, I always listen to what everybody says, and I take stock of it and think, right, that's a good idea. I'll try that. I'll try it. If it don't work, I don't blame other people. I think it didn't quite work for me. Must be another idea, you know?
So what we'll do, who's that, please?
That's my phone. It's somebody knocking in the house.
But anyway, look, I want to tie it up now, and I want to tie it up again. I mean, this is just coming to my head again, because we had that little quote at the beginning, and after what you just said, you know, what Alexander the Great said, you know, there's nothing impossible to they who try.
Yes, there's nothing impossible to those who try.
Tone, absolutely brilliant. And at the end of this, all I can say is you've been weathered. Right, that's the thing.
Let's get together soon.
It's been fantastic. And again, people, you know, go to Tony's Greenlit funding page. You can get it if you open up his account on Facebook. All the
AG Longhurst.
AG Longhurst. A capital A G Longhurst. Go to his all the details, all the links where you and look, as he said, you know, as Tony said, this is 10 grand, right? That's 10,000 people putting £1 in each, okay, to help a little firm who's trying hard, who's come through the ranks hard, who's had an hard life, still cleaning, still on his knees cleaning, still on his knees doing these bits and pieces. So if we can't help people like Tony, who can we help?
Thank you very much.
You know, once we get all this tied up, this podcast tied up, we'll put everything on the descriptions and just try your best to give Tony an hand on this one and help him out, help him to be something that he's always wanted to be. So there you go. That's what it comes to. There's the award.
There you go.
That's your Tone.
Thank you, Ed.
Mate.
All right, and I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get you something in this one, because there's a couple of bits. I know that.
Don't worry about that, Tone.
And
Don't worry about that. That's not what it's about. Let's just hold up. Give me. I will say hello now. Thank you, Tony. Absolutely beautiful podcast, as always.
Thank you very much,
Bella, Robert Part, all these little firm, Michael McKell, they've all been together for years and years and years and years. There's nothing false about them. They're genuine working class people that are trying to get in front. So hats off to you, brother.